Welcome to Living Well. We're so happy that you joined us today to learn more about how to care for your mind, body, and spirit. One of our main reasons for doing the program is that we want to make sure that we educate individuals of how to prevent diseases, preserve their health, and even prolong their life. Today, we have a very important topic by Josephine Johnson. You've heard her before. She's a registered dietitian. She has a master's degree, and she also is a licensed nutritionist. And so she'll tell you more about herself. But today we're talking about autophagy. And so she's going to share with us what that means and why that is important for us in caring for our mind, our body, and our spirit. I do want to remind you that this program is for educational purposes only. We do not assess, diagnose, or treat any medical conditions. It is information for you to learn more about your body. And then if you want to make any lifestyle changes, you can talk to your physician or your practitioner or your provider. But we're glad you're here. As always, Josephine always brings us some good information. I would encourage you to get a pen and a piece of paper because my guess is she's going to ask us some questions throughout her presentation, and you want to be ready to answer them. Welcome, Josephine. We're very happy that you're here to share on the Living Well program. I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sankey. And good afternoon to everyone. It's always my pleasure to do these presentations, even though sometimes the topics can be difficult. Try my best to read and research. And this afternoon, it's a topic as autophagy, which is fairly new. It's a fairly new concept, but when I heard about it, I really liked the idea. So I'm going to try my best, by God's help, to present this to you today. So technically, it means self-eating, but it is a literal interpretation, says Dr. Dong Trin, the CMO at the Healthy Brain Clinic in Long Beach, California. Auto, if you break down the word, auto means self. Phagy means eating. It originated from a Greek word, autophagy. But when the term is looked at through the lens of science and medicine, it boils down to the understanding that the cells in the body eat up parts of cells that are old, broken, and defective. The doctor further explained. The cells, therefore, clean themselves to make new ones. It is a survival mechanism under stressful conditions, such as food deprivation. It maintains the integrity of the cells by recycling essential metabolites and clearing intracellular debris. A metabolite is something like an amino acid. It's a substance made or used when the body breaks down food, drugs, or its own tissue. So when your body breaks down protein, you make amino acid, and that is a metabolite. The process of starvation-induced autophagy was recently the focus of extensive research. The concept emerged during the 1960s, and in 1963, it was coined by Belgian biochemist Christian Deveau based on his discovery of the functions of lysosome. The lysosomes break down excess or worn-out cell parts and may be used to destroy invading viruses and bacteria. This allowed researchers to conclude that autophagy takes place. In the 1990s, mechanisms for autophagy in yeast was identified. In 2016, a Nobel Prize was given in physiology or medicine. It was awarded to the Japanese researcher Yoshinori Asumi. So consumption of the body's own tissue is a natural process, which is known also as the body's cellular recycling system, controlling the quality of cells. Too much junk in the cells take up space, causing the cells not to be able to function as they should. Autophagy then reuses pieces of cells to reduce the clutter. This helps the cell to do their best work. So the body breaks down and reuse old cell parts so your cells can operate more efficiently. It's a natural cleaning out process that begins when your cells are stressed or deprived of nutrients. So researchers now are studying this concept of autophagy to help to prevent and fight disease. The body's cells are usually in two states. They're either growing and dividing, or they're repairing and maintaining. So the repair and the maintenance phase is where autophagy happens. Energy from food gives the cell cause to grow and divide. No energy from food, the cells go into maintenance and repair. So when the cells in your body are low on materials to do their work, they eat themselves or damage cells to make newer, healthier ones. So they don't literally eat themselves, they say digest. So they would do that to make newer, healthier cells. So this autophagy is an important way for cells to clear damaged parts that could be harmful to them and to digest parts for nutrients when cells are experiencing starvation conditions, said Dr. Wan. Now I have some big words here, but don't worry about the big words. So autophagy refers to the formation of autophagosomes. So the membrane of the cell wraps itself, the cytoplasm wraps itself around whatever organelle or protein that needs to be gotten rid of. And this is the isolation step. So it targets whatever it wants to get rid of, wraps itself around it, take it to the lysosome, which is referred to as a cellular waste disposal unit. And that's the fusion step. So the autophagosomes fuse with the lysosomes. And then the contents of the lysosome are broken down into smaller pieces. That's degradation. This is done by the lysosome digestive enzymes. And then the recycling step achieves cell balance and organelle renewal and the building of new parts. I tried to get a little diagram which shows the steps. The yellow circle is a lysosome, and the cell takes whatever it wants to break down, and it fuses with the lysosome in the fourth one, and then degradation occurs. The white blood cells are the ones that go and search for materials for the recycling process. You know, when you have an infection and you go for a blood test and your white blood cells are high, You say you're fighting an infection. So the white blood cells do that. So the materials that they go and search for are things like damaged tissues, excess skin, viruses, cancer cells, microbes, plaque, misfolded or aggregated proteins, etc. So anything that is like a foreign body invading our bodies, the process of autophagy can help to get rid of those. And you will have a stronger immune system through this process. So how do you know that it is working? Your blood sugar drops, ketones increase, there's weight loss, your skin tightens, cellulite goes away, you have improved brain and immune function, and you get protection from diseases. But if autophagy goes on for too long, it can have negative effects because your body will need nourishment at some point, so you can do it for too long. So you might experience dehydration and may give way for other cells to start to spread, etc. So they recommend a 48 to 72-hour fast can be done 2 to 3 times per year. So what are we doing daily to prevent the process of autophagy? Constant eating and possibly snacking. It does not allow the body time to carry out the recycling process of autophagy because it is full of food and excess waste. The cells are in a constant state of growth and division. But when we abstain from eating for a period of time, we cut off the excess material. So automatically, the process of maintenance and repair starts. This will force the body to supply its own materials, causing the recycling process to start, which is autophagy. And this is very good. So, preventing autophagy, too much sugar or proteins, the older we get, autophagy tends to decline because we do not recycle as well as the younger people. Your genetics, they say that there's a gene that can be turned on to have autophagy. So they're researching this. If you have diabetes and obesity, which often cause insulin resistance, and then your body will have excess insulin, these can prevent autophagy. If there is hormonal imbalance, because insulin inhibits, it prevents autophagy, but its antagonist, glucagon, promotes it. And then oxidative stress, DNA damage, and ultraviolet radiation can prevent autophagy. How can we enhance autophagy? How can we make it work? Fasting can make it work. So you stop eating for a certain period of time, your body is deprived of nutrients, forcing it to repurpose cell components to function, forcing it to go and look for other nutrients, other cells, bacteria, viruses, to get food. If we restrict our calories, decrease it, we can enhance autophagy. So instead of depriving your body of calories completely, as with fasting, you limit them. This forces your cells into autophagy to compensate for the lost nutrients. So calorie restriction, switching to a high-fat, low-carb diet, which is commonly referred to as a keto diet, changes the way your body burns energy, so that instead of burning carbs or sugar for energy, which the body typically gets rid of the sugar and the carbohydrates first, it's going to burn fat instead. And autophagy can be triggered. So this type of way of eating, you'll potentially get some weight loss. You get more energy, treat chronic illnesses. I was reading where they said this is good for people with cancer, this kind of diet, because the sugar and the high carb diet, they feed the cancer cells and keep them active. So when you deprive the cancer cells of their food, the body has to go and look and get rid of all the damaged cells in your body. But if you're going to go on this diet, you have to talk to an expert in that field. Exercise also can enhance autophagy. It's a positive stress. It stimulates processes that increase the activity of autophagy-related genes. When you stress your skeletal muscles because they're going to use up all the sugar or the glycogen that is stored in your muscle when you do high intensity exercise and aerobic exercise. Autophagy can be started in many of our body's organs, the heart, your liver, your brain. But by itself, you have to put it with your diet, exercise. So how many hours of abstinence from food to start the process of autophagy? It is not conclusive. Everybody's saying something different. But some research says that 24 to 48 hours. But others may say that 12 hours can start the process. And then they say aim for 17. That can slide the autophagy dimmer switch further into the on position. Note that the length of time needed to stimulate autophagy varies by individual. So some factors that can affect how long it takes to trigger autophagy include your metabolism, how your body breaks down and builds up your food, and your dietary habits. Autophagy is a natural process, but it can work more efficiently by making some lifestyle changes. So your body has to be in a fasting state for this to start. So you eat your supper tonight, and 8 hours after, some people, their blood sugar comes down enough to cause the body to switch to a fasting state. So we hear a lot about intermittent fasting, which you don't eat for a period of time each day. And this deprives the cells of nutrients for a time and automatically triggers the maintenance and repair stage, and thus autophagy. So intermittent fasting, it is a patterned way of eating and not a diet. It is a conscious decision that is made. It can be 12 to 36 hours. Beyond 36 hours, though, is considered extended fasting. And they're still trying to work on how intermittent fasting is related to autophagy. So I found some methods for intermittent fasting that can help with autophagy. The 16 to 8 hours time restricted feeding, restrict daily eating window to a specific time frame, like at 8 hours, while you fast for the remaining 16 hours. Sorry. There's also a 14, 10-hour feeding time, which is similar to the 16. So you fast for 14 and you eat for 10 hours, not 10 hours or 8 hours straight. You may have 2 meals there. And then you eat, stop, eat. So you do a 24-hour fast once or twice a week. Fasting helps the body to reset, especially the GI tract. It is advised, as we say many times, to consult your healthcare provider when doing this intense method of fasting. So know your body, how it works, to make sure that you can do this and you choose a pattern that suits you. These are just some, there are more if you want to go and do some research, but these are what I picked out. So if you're fasting 12 to 16 hours, here your body's metabolism shifts to burn stored fat for energy instead of glycogen. So you'll make some ketones, which will excite the brain and enhance mental clarity. You may not even be hungry. And then the cells would start repairing themselves and insulin levels will go down. This option may be good for beginners as the fasting window is relatively small. Most fasting will occur while you're sleeping. Like you finish eating at 7 this evening and you don't eat again till 7 in the morning. This can be done each day, but we'll need to gradually get longer to turn on the autophagy switch. Fasting for 16 hours, a step up from the 12 hours, it is believed help the body to undergo the process of autophagy. Damaged old cells are destroyed and recycled, and this could go from 8 until noon the next day. This fast can be done each day or twice per week. At 13 to 15 hours, the growth hormone goes up. This, it is believed, would burn fat and slow down the anti-aging process and keeps you young and helps with the burning of fat. Testosterone levels go up in men. The CRP levels go down. The CRP is an inflammatory marker. 24 hours, the whole gut resets. The intestinal stem cells, new cells, come in and repair the whole inner lining of the gut. The eat, stop, eat strategy can be used for this period once or twice per week. Water and sweetened black coffee, decaffeinated, herbal teas, you can drink some of that for this 24-hour fast. For 36 hours, the body attacks excess fat, especially around the belly. Weight loss may be experienced. This fat is used for energy. This fast can be done once per week. So if you're going to fast for 72 hours, your whole immune system reboots itself. This can be done several times per year, maybe 3 times per year. History of medical disorders should be taken into consideration like diabetes, anorexia, nervosa, and all those things. And if you're taking certain medication, you have to be aware of your medical condition and talk to your health practitioner if you're going to do that. I tried to get this graph to show what happens during all the benefits of fasting. I have 4 to 8 hours fasting, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16, 18 to 20, 36 hour, 48 and 72. So I thought that was helpful. So some health benefits of intermittent fasting includes heart disease prevention, you lower your blood pressure, you reduce insulin resistance, your brain health improves, the structure and the caliber of your brain, you develop nerve cells and enhance cognitive health, and it is said that autophagy helps with Alzheimer's. Your inflammation is reduced, your cytokines are reduced, which are immune system chemicals, and it supports the treatment and prevention of cancer. But remember, you have to drink plenty of water during fasting. Some persons may be able to fast cold turkey, just get up and start fasting, while others may have to ease into it gradually. So if you eat 3 meals a day plus snack between each meal, you just cut out the snacks and then just eat 3 meals. And then you can go a little step further. You don't stay there, but go a little step further. You can do a food group fast. You can eliminate all sugars, or you can eliminate animal protein, or however you want, whichever group you want to do. But then you'll have to take it a little further. As I mentioned before, if you eat 3 meals a day, you can half size your meals now. If you're accustomed to eat like 800 calories or so for a meal, you cut it down to 400. Then you can drop 1 meal. You can drop your breakfast. Then you can drop breakfast and lunch. But you may drink some herbal teas, etc., something like that in there to help tide you over to your dinner. Having 1 meal per day starts the process of metabolism reset. Healthy fats, proteins, healthy carbs. Avoid processed foods because these may be low in nutritional value. So you drink your liquids, and they call it dirty fasting. You can drink tea, black coffee, bone broth, sparkling water. These are not so nutritious. So you can do that to help tide you over because you have to drink something. Some of us may have to do something. So still being able to induce autophagy doesn't mean you should. For instance, fasting, calorie restriction, or switching to a keto diet may not be safe if you're pregnant and breastfeeding, because when you're pregnant or breastfeeding, it is advised that you increase your calorie intake because you have to feed another person. So your calorie intake increases about close to 312 calories if pregnant or breastfeeding. On the 18, I guess you're still growing and you need your nutrients. If you're recovering from surgery, Your body needs to be nourished, so you can't go and do fasting. Eating disorder, diabetes, and also you shouldn't begin exercising, vigorous exercise routine without consulting a healthcare provider. So when you're going to break your fast, that was more than 24 hours, there are some suggestions of things you can break it with, like bone broth, miso soup, to replace the electrolytes in particular. And you have your clean proteins, your tofu, your clean chicken, to get amino acids to rebuild the body, to build back the muscles of your body. Healthy fats like avocado, nuts, and seeds, eggs. This helps to shut off the hunger hormone. You can also use fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, which are rich in probiotics for gut health and immunity, because autophagy might have shifted your gut microbiome and it needs to be rebalanced. Cacao, not cocoa. Black coffee with medium chain triglyceride oil, like coconut oil. You can put that in your coffee. Green tea, olive oil. But don't overeat, because you may experience feeding syndrome and get diarrhea and all that. So autophagy plays critical roles in inflammation through influencing the development, homeostasis, the systemic balance, and survival of inflammatory cells, including macrophages, neutrophils, and lymphocytes. Recently, autophagy-dependent mechanisms have been studied in the pathogenesis phase, which is the origination and development of disease, of several inflammatory diseases, including infectious diseases, Crohn's disease, cystic fibrosis, pulmonary hypertension, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, and so on. So these studies suggest that modulation of autophagy might lead to therapeutic interventions for diseases associated with inflammation. So they are studying autophagy to see how they can use it for therapy to intervene in these inflammatory diseases. When it comes to aging and longevity, autophagy plays an important role. And as I said before, autophagy decreases as we age, which can lead to a buildup of cellular junk parts, and in turn, cells that aren't functioning at their best. So the lysosomes eat the junk cell parts and then release the reusable bits and pieces. The cells use these raw materials to make new parts. So the person you are right now could change in 6 months to a healthier person from what you are now to a healthier person due to healthier cells, which will come about with the process of autophagy. Which would you prefer, to do fasting or to be diseased? Which is worse? Health tastes better to me. If I'm diseased and I'm told to do some fasting so I can get better, surely I would do it. So when fasting, you look at food differently. You're not going to eat that. You're going to leave it alone until you're done. You and food probably become enemies. So you can change your relationship with food and don't eat it all the time, every day, all the time. Grazing and nibbling. You eat when you're supposed to eat, and eat in a way that will help your body to be properly nourished. So, fasting for the purpose of autophagy is believed to be very beneficial overall cellular and metabolic health. These two are of great significance in healthy aging. It may take a while to experience results, but it is said to be a very good investment toward lifespan and health span. And while I was doing this research, my mind went back on Matthew 17:21, when Christ's disciples couldn't cast out the demon out of the boy. And they asked Jesus, why couldn't we do it? And he said, this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. So I'm sure I've heard several people say they stop eating this and they stop eating that, or stop eating for a while, and they feel good. They have mental clarity, they have more energy when they deprive their bodies of food. So Jesus knew what he was saying when he said, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. So fasting and praying, I would advise that you do praying if you're going to do fasting. So ask the Lord to sustain you, to show you how to go about it, which method to choose, how long to do it, so that your body can be renewed. I hope that this information wasn't too difficult to understand, but it's just simple. When you don't eat for a while, your body will take care of itself and go and find food. And the food it finds are normally those defected cells and all the viruses and proteins that are not wrapped properly, that are making us sick. So when we do fasting, these things are eaten up by the cells and making new ones so we can be a healthier people. Thank you for your time. And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Josephine. I appreciate you sharing with us about autophagy. And I do like that it has a lot of benefits. I like the one about, for aging, that it slows down your aging. I like that it gives you more energy. Many times we do things, but we don't really understand how they benefit the body, the entire body at large. So thank you so very much for sharing that. I'm going to open it up for questions. I just believe that there may be someone who has questions. So I will actually open that up right now. Anyone has any questions for, can vitamin supplements be taken during the period of autophagy? I will let you answer that, Ms. Josephine.
I
Vitamin
don't
supplements.
think so, because the body needs time to get away from all of that thing we put in there. So it won't be for a long period of time. So you can put away those for a while and focus on just drinking. I don't know what your vitamins are, but I don't know if they have calories or nutrients, because we don't want to give the body nutrients for it to start to get back out of the autophagy. So you can leave those for a while, and if you want to be more sure, you can do some research to find out which ones you can take during the autophagy. But if you're on medication, you have to talk to your doctor about that.
Great. Good question. Very good question. Any other questions for Josephine? Any questions? You know what I found interesting also, Josephine, was about um, the fasting. The longer you fast, seems like the more autophagy occurs and it's even more beneficial. So
Yes.
sometimes we think, okay, I stop eating at 7, but I'm going to have breakfast at 7 in the morning. That is a starting point. But what I understood is that if you extend it beyond that, let's say you eat at 9 or even 12, even later, because you're putting your body in a condition where it's required to begin to find those cells within the body itself. Um, Found that really
Yes.
interesting. I thought that was a very good presentation to talk about because there's several stages that you mentioned that it could happen um, at the 12
Yes.
hours, 14, and even up to, I think you even mentioned up to 36 hours. But I know when I fast, I do have more energy. I think more clear because I'm not focusing so much on eating. What I liked about is you said even snacking in between, it kind of cancels it out because the body doesn't have time to look for any food because we're overfeeding it. And then you mentioned that that food really
Mm-hmm.
sometimes becomes waste. It's not even utilized by the body. So I think that snacking that really was like a good eye opener that sometimes we don't think that what we eat in between our meals affect our body, but it does. It does weaken it. Um, Thought I saw
Yes.
another question. Okay. Brendia just corrected me with the phone number on there. So thank you, Brendia. Any other questions? Any other questions? And I think, many people have heard of fasting and we've talked about fasting, fasting and praying. Um, but now that you've actually broken it down to how fasting really does affect our mind and our body, I think that really is something that we have to take in consideration. The story that you told at the end about the disciples not being able to cast out the demons, and Jesus responded, it only becomes by prayer and fasting. We have to know that there's things in our lives that the only way we're going to overcome them is by allowing the body to rest from food and focusing on food and spending that time
Mm-hmm.
allowing the body to rest, autophagy, praying, and then we can sometimes get the victory over those things. So it's not a light thing to fast. It really
I
is
know.
is a purposeful thing because you're looking for specific benefits for the body and the mind and the spirit. Any other questions?
I'm
I have
not
a,
sure if it was addressed with the vitamins, but I think Jocelyn asked if she could take her prescribed medications while fasting.
as we said, if you're going to fast and you're on the doctor's supervision, you have to talk to your doctor, and because certain conditions may not be able to do the fasting, they have to talk to your doctor and hear what he says, especially if you're on medication.
You mentioned that the blood sugar drops. Did you say that? Mention that?
Yes, because normally if you don't eat, even if
Mm-hmm.
you're not a diabetic, your sugar will go down.
Right.
So those that people with diabetes and all those things on medication should work
Mm-hmm.
with their doctor.
Mm-hmm. Great presentation. A lot of positive feedback. Can you think of
Mhm.
anything else, Josephine? Any closing remarks or anything?
No.
I would say let everybody, all of us need to think about being more intentional. Eating at scheduled times is really good. I actually had to reprimand myself just yesterday that my eating times are not as scheduled like they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to remind myself that that is very important. And now hearing today's presentation, one of my biggest takeaways is really be intentional about choosing whether it's 1 day or 2 days a week that you allow your body to rest. You're not going to starve to death. Oftentimes when you don't eat, as long as you're drinking fluids, water, herbal tea, some type of something fluid, your body will be okay. But it's just being mindful that overeating or not eating at scheduled times or either shortening your time so when you're eating, the body doesn't have time to even rest. She mentioned those 2 periods of time in the body, and we need to go into that repair and maintenance phase, and sometimes it doesn't get there.
No,
So,
because you're always eating, so it's always going and dividing. Fat
yes.
cells grow, this grow, you may have other bacteria or bad cells in your body, they grow because especially the sugar, if you have cancer, and the sugar causes inflammation. So if you continue eating, your body will grow and divide.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned that even with fasting, and you don't do it just to lose weight, but your body does have time to use what it has already in it that's stored. You mentioned it's
Mhm.
already stored in the body, and so if it's stored there, why not allow the body to use itself and take off some of that storage, clean out
Yes,
that closet a little bit
you
so
know,
there's no
some
room.
of the junk, all of the fat cells, it can get rid of the fat cells and
Mm,
it can get rid of the bacteria or the whatever pathogens are in your body. They will be moved out when the body, it has to be deprived of nutrients to go into or look for food.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Josephine, thank you again so much for sharing this very important topic. I would ask those of you who are on the line today not only to think about this information for yourselves, but think about it for a family or a friend. Sometimes we don't feel our best, we feel bloated, stop eating, even with animals, sometimes they have to stop eating, just allow their bodies to rest,
Mhm.
rejuvenate. So, again, don't take this information lightly. Our body needs to rest. Fasting is one way that we can allow it to rest,
Mhm.
rejuvenate, repair, maintain, and sometimes we get various conditions or diseases simply because the body has not had a chance to repair or to rejuvenate or replenish itself. So thank you again, Josephine.
You're welcome.